When you grow up in Michigan, you are expected to love and support all of the Michigan-based artists. Stevie Wonder, Madonna, Eminem, so on and so forth. Bob Seger is on that list. He's from the Detroit area. And I do not like him. I have never liked him. Every time we're at a wedding and old-time rock and roll comes on, and I sit down, I'm like, boo, boo, Bob Seger sucks. And then all the people are like, what? He's the voice of our generation. He's from here. Well, you're crazy. And I tell them the story that my art teacher in high school told me. You see, my art teacher grew up with Bob Seger. And my art teacher had a paper route. So he had his bicycle and this little satchel full of his newspapers, back when they relied on child labor to distribute their product. So he would ride his bike throughout the neighborhood and, deliver those newspapers. And then there was this apartment complex that he would have to grab a bunch of the papers, park his bike, and go into the complex to deliver those, and he'd come back out. And every time he would come back out, he discovered that someone was dumping a bucket of water into the satchel, ruining all the newspapers, and then he, my art teacher, would have to pay for that because he was ultimately responsible for them, and I didn't like that, right? It was ruined. So many times this happened, and so one time he parked his bike, he grabbed a bunch of the newspapers, pretended to go into the apartment complex, but really kind of hid around the corner and waited. And sure enough, little old Bob Seger comes around with a bucket of water and pours it into his satchel. And so my art teacher, kind of a husky guy, went over and just beat the crap out of Bob Seger, because that's what you do when people are jerks to you. So I've gone the past 30 years believing that Bob Seger is a jerk. And it made me not ever want to listen to his music or, even give it a chance, So it just goes to show, don't be a jerk, right? I'm not sure why my art teacher would make something like this up. Although this was back in the 90s and before Google and social media and ways to verify this information. But nonetheless, tell me if I'm missing out on anything here, the Bob Seger and the Coors Light Band or whatever it's called. If you think that I'm missing out on something, please let me know. I will go into it with an open mind now. But the point remains, if you're a jerk, that's going to travel. If you're not nice to people, it's going to come back to you in some way. I don't know if Bob Seger knows that I don't like him. I hope he Googles himself and he finds this and he's like, what? No, man. That's not what happened. I don't even know what he sounds like, except for old-time rock and roll. He sounds raspy. I'm sure that he has a raspy voice. This is kind of silly because there was definitely times when I was a little kid that I was a jerk. So, touche. Touche, Bob Seger. I definitely wouldn't have poured water on newspapers before. Who does that? That's silly. So, just don't be a Bob Seger. Be someone nice. Like Paul Rudd. He's definitely nice. He's got to be nice, right? I've never heard a disparaging word about him